Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hi, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's podcast, Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. So welcome aboard engineers, pilots, teachers, military, dentists, the whole nine yards. Typically professionals, often business owners. Okay, this is really the audience, although anybody can listen to it, obviously. And realtors too, by the way. We have a lot of realtors involved who work with investors, because that's what this is about. So what it's not is it's not the no money down owner financing stuff. I get it. It's out there in droves. I used to do that. But I would tell you from experience, 34 years experience, over time, my hope and wish and prayer for you is to be on a cash basis, because you will get the best deals. You can still be creative. Once you control the asset, you can finance it, refinance it, leverage it, do all kinds of things. But I can tell you, life's much more peaceful when you're not starting every day from debt. Okay. So in any case, a lot of this comes out in these podcasts. If you're not yet subscribed, please feel free to do so. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, 30 some odd channels, now being downloaded in over 30 countries. And if you really want to be part of the community, just go to myinvestmentservices.com and click on member area. Go in there and you'll see on the left, if you're already a member, click on that. On the right, if you're not, you can see what it's all about. And I think for the asking, they'll let you do it for a month for free. It's very affordable, but it's a way for you to network with other folks just like us. I'm one of you. I'm part of the product of the product. Okay, we all work together. We do joint ventures, do some really neat things. So in any case, today is a great subject. Louis Racette is from Ancaster, Canada. He and I have a student-teacher relationship, and I value the relationship. He's become a good friend of mine, and I just love the fact that he's on here because he's got some pretty neat experiences to share with you. So Louis, first off, welcome aboard, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Gary. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And if you wouldn't mind, paint a quick picture, Louis. How did you get to where you are now? Like where did you come from? Who's Louis? And then we can jump into some of the projects you've worked on. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Okay, we need to go back, I think, quite a ways because, as I was explaining before, there's been many steps into the journey that prepared me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. So when we go back to military school, when I was in high school, I wasn't good in school. I hated school. I was a high D personality. I was impatient. I was dyslexic, and I needed a challenge. So sitting there for hours after hours drove me nuts. So after school, I decided to start to work. And I went to work for my dad. Now, my dad was in insurance, so he had me do investigations into accidents and claims. And that taught me to think. That taught me to ask questions, to seek a solution to a problem that would obviously satisfy the claimant, but you're working for an insurance company. So there was a balance act there. But that started me into analyzing. And over the years, the analysis became more interesting and greater. So after that, I decided to go on my own. I became a pilot. And basically, I traveled the world. And when I crashed my plane, I decided there's got to be something more. So that brought me to broadcasting. So I then went into the actual communications. I was in sales for CTV Canada. And that taught me communications and marketing. Then after 12 years of that, I decided to start my own company. Why not? So I started an advertising agency and served national clients and regional retail clients into finding solutions for them. Now, the solutions vary depending on the type, but usually it's going to be creative solutions because of the communication factor. And then you have to find who is the right buyer for that product. So that encompasses marketing. I then decided to, let's go back to university and do a marketing course. So I went to McGill Ended up doing my BCom and started an MBA before my attention went to somewhere else, and I started a high-tech business in Real 3D. Sold that and then came to Niagara from Montreal, because all this time I was in Montreal, and came to Niagara and decided real estate, that has potential.
Mm-hmm.
And the potential goes from not only being a realtor in helping people, but becoming an investor as well, and looking at the markets, and that changes the dynamics of marketing completely. Mm-hmm. Everything that you've learned in marketing when you come to the investment and real estate needs to be readapted to a new reality. So that was the process of the moment that I came into real estate, was to learn about markets and learn about data, finance, learn about how to appraise properties, because that's where it's at. Between the finance and the appraisal, if you're wrong on the appraisal, you're dead in the water. So those two issues had me learning constantly. Mm-hmm. So you got to be relentless at this. You can't all of a sudden go off. You have to be relentless at something that you want and something that you want to achieve. So that's basically the journey that got me into real estate.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I just learned a few nuggets myself. I didn't know or remember from before. That's pretty awesome journey. And what's interesting is, when you look back, you can almost see how the things that you did prepared you well to achieve what you're achieving now. And some of the talents and skills you developed are very, very transferable into the world of real estate, whether it's brokerage or investing or the combination, which is what we're all about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wouldn't mind, maybe talk about, can you share with us a couple of projects, maybe one you worked on in the past that was your home run, you basically was a win-win for everybody. Maybe give us another one after that where you wish it had gone better. Because I want people to kind of see that, in spite of our best efforts, there's outside factors. Everybody's got different agendas, and it's usually the end game of winning is usually not a succession of successive only wins. It's a succession of a combination of wins and learning opportunities that prepare you for greater wins.
Yes, the failures I think matter a lot.
Yeah.
Because the best way I think to learn is to fail, and fail early. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest ventures that I did was starting a high-tech company where, from a advertising environment where I had to deal with printers, mm-hmm. the internet all of a sudden came into play, which is digital. And that changed everything. All the rules changed. Mm-hmm. But what happened was that the printers were losing out to the internet and falling away incredibly fast. So you had the really big printers, and then you had all the small ones, and they were dying one after the other. Mm-hmm. So I came out of university, and I had a neighbor of mine that was kind of a genius. And he's going, what about 3D? And I was going, what about 3D? And we started talking, and we decided that, a solution for the printing industry so that they can compete for market share was to give them a new tool. And that tool was Real 3D, but without the glasses.
Okay.
So we worked on this for a number of years, and we got a couple of patents out of it. And the printers don't want to put in money into it, but they're giving us all the time that we want to test on printing machines. So it actually took 4 years for us to open our first image, mm-hmm. Because doing it digitally, the file sizes were so big that we had to find some really creative ways on how to minimize the files. Mm-hmm. And so we would break it down by color. So the limits were like 2 gigs. And so red had 2 gigs, black had 2 gigs, yellow had 2 gigs. And it took 4 years before a printer called us and goes, guess what? We have our new computers. Why don't you come in and try this? And it took 4 hours to open it. But wow. That was the first time that we saw a real 3D image that we had created 4 years ago. So that started us on the marketing side of it. And we went into competitions across Canada, put together by the Canadian government. put together by regional governments and local investors. And we came out number one, number two in probably most of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we kept on going. And when we got to the investors, they said to us, we don't want print. I said, what do you mean you don't want print? It's $1 billion industry. We're not interested in print. We want you to go digital. Well, that was a different story because the technology wouldn't allow it. Mm-hmm. We simply didn't have the computers in those days. And even today would be, so we worked at it for a long time. And then Google got into the game. Well, that kind of killed everything. Google with their millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that they threw at it, and they never made it. So that was a venture that became frustrating. The learning was incredible, but it was very frustrating because we never got to use our technology that was fabulous. Mm-hmm. So yes, so that was a difficult learning process, but one that you don't see why you're not succeeding. You only see after the failure how it served you when you moved on to mm-hmm. and got over the anger and like I just wasted my time for 10 years and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden that goes away and then you see, oh, look what it did for me. Mm-hmm. And then you're back onto the growth mindset again. And that allows you to see beyond the issues and look at new possibilities and exciting new challenges for the future.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I tell you what, the world of entrepreneurship is an interesting world. There's a famous graphic out there, and I wish I had it to show you, but it's like you'll start off and you're thinking, boy, this really isn't working. I should just give up now. And the next day you have this great success. And you think, my gosh, I'm a genius. This is great. Holy crap, I can't believe what just happened there. This is terrible. And it's like this constant thing, But at the end of the day, the sense of freedom that you get from being your own boss and having your own business far surpasses anything you could possibly ever get from just being an employee. I can't imagine. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yep. So when it comes to real estate, I knew you and I have spoken about a few projects over the last several months, but even in the past, maybe you're one of your own investments or with a client that you can think of, whether it's duplex or flip or fourplex. If you can think through one, like the steps involved, what I want to do is I want to show people that there really is a process, and success does leave clues, and you can simply learn and follow the model from people like you. And I know you help other investors too, which I want to talk about also in a minute. But can you think of a project you worked on either for yourself or a client that you were like, boy, the plan really worked well at that time? There wasn't a lot of hiccups and things like that. And because those happen too, you have some things where they're like, man, that was pretty easy,
Yeah. And one that happened where it was actually a surprise. It just came out of the blue. And that was just by communicating with people and saying, this is a new area, and this is, and we have information. And all of a sudden, off the boards, somebody came, I know of a property that you could be interested in. And so why don't you contact so-and-so? And I did. And that person, the timing was absolutely perfect. They needed to sell that property today. Mm-hmm. They wanted to move on. They had already purchased another property and they were stuck with it. So that allowed me to do quick numbers mm-hmm. and to look at the market. And because as a realtor, I have access to a lot of data. So I looked at it, and at first it was difficult because I couldn't find comparable properties to match. So mm-hmm. I was going, okay, so the only other way to do this is with numbers. Well, the numbers were not in their favor. I mean, they had not taken care of their property. They had not increased the rents for God knows how long. So the rents were very low, and that allowed me to make an offer that was a very low offer, and they accepted it. And it didn't take like weeks on end. I made 2 offers on it. Mm-hmm. So the very one was a lot lower. And then I came up by $50K, but that was still way lower than market value. Mm-hmm. And they accepted it. And so that was one that was, oh my God, if they could all be this way. Mm-hmm. The cash flow was interesting. And the location was also in my favor, being close to hospitals and universities. So that turned out to be possibly one of the easiest deals I've ever made.
Awesome. I love it when those days happen.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. All right. Now, is there, as far as timing, and just to draw a comparison here. So, I live part-time up here in London, Ontario, and then part-time in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And the last great recession really clobbered the United States, but Canada kept cruising right along. Now, going back to the late 70s, early 80s, when interest rates were 18, 21%, we were all feeling the same thing, U.S. and Canada both. But since you've been in real estate, have you noticed anything when it's relative to timing relative to the economy, where certain strategies work better than others? Or is there how is timing, where we are in the economy, would you say has affected your business? Maybe you've had to come up with different strategies in an up market than a down market. Anything along those lines? Because the economy is doing great now, but we also know that the economy is always change, and could be 5 years, could be 10 years, we don't know. But I want people to be prepared and not worry about recessions, just be prepared because there's always a strategy,
For me, this is where, from the very beginning, it was really important for me to understand macroeconomics. Mm-hmm. You need to be aware of your surroundings, what's happening in the environment, whether political or financial, or it doesn't matter. You need to be able to have a feel for what will happen, maybe not tomorrow, but next year or the year after, and follow it. So that was a very important factor to learn, is I need to be aware. And I need to be aware of what goes on in the US as well as what goes on in Europe. And because that will affect us one way or another. Mm-hmm. This is when in Canada, because the value of real estate was lower, and Canada became a really attractive market for investors, and investors from all over the world. So that property values went nuts. And very quickly, Vancouver was basically Asian. And that market became unattainable in a very quick couple of years. Mm-hmm. Toronto then became the second biggest market in Canada. And it became the same way. We couldn't approach properties, people that just wanted to have a condo or buy a house. It was just like, forget it. And first-time buyers, there's no way. Yeah. So Canada got involved. And when the government gets involved, that means that things are going to change fast. Mm-hmm. So they put together in two implementation stress tests that affected the whole market. Did it slow down the investors? Listen, investors are smart. They find ways around. Right. So that the Asians sent their kids here to school, and the kids would be buying property. And guess who was financing? So it didn't change much of anything, but it did affect Canadians. So when we came to 2016, 2017, and 2018, that's when the market changed completely. In 2016, we had a seller's market, and it wasn't just in Canada; it was across America, because a lot of areas across the U.S., a lot of markets were in the same position that we were, but not maybe at the same time. So that meant that our negotiating tactics changed completely. We were suddenly into a multi-competition bidding war. And as a realtor, you always want to create these wars for your seller, because that's how they make money. So that worked well. And then we learned all kinds of tricks. And this is where, again, the marketing comes in, where what I did is I associated myself with the Craig Proctor system. Because what they do is marketing, and that's all they do. And they have, within the membership, are probably the richest realtors in the world. So the marketing systems that are provided to us are advanced marketing systems. And we could apply those systems to the situation. So we made a lot of money for our sellers at that time. But the buyers were struggling. Simply because they got burnt, and they would make offers on 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 homes and lose every time because they were limited by budgets. Right. So what I started doing is I came upon a tactic where I would say, I will be presenting to the seller, and this is on somebody else's listing. And I would say to the seller, I'm here on behalf of my buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking to their realtor. I'm talking directly to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been authorized to make you this offer for your property. And then I would go through it where I'm seeing the other realtor going, what is he doing?
Yeah.
And basically it was, we are prepared to offer you X number of dollars more than the highest offer you're going to get. And all you need to do is tell your realtor to provide us with the offers redacted, but we want to see the price.
Yeah.
And so that created like, oh my God, what are they doing? But you know what? That's how our buyers starting to get. The seller got what they wanted, but my buyers also got what they wanted. It was all a question of being able to negotiate it and prepare the documentation to prove what we were doing. So after that, of course, the market crashed. Well, you can't call it a crash. It just flipped on its head, where all of a sudden it's a seller's market, and within 2 weeks, it's gone. So again, how fast do you adjust to this situation? Not a balanced market. It became a buyer's market.
Right.
So now the buyers have got the good end of it, and they're making lowball offers, and the sellers are pulling their hair out. So again, a completely different tactic that we needed to adjust to when representing either or. So constantly to changing market situations. It's a breathing, living apparatus, and you have to adapt to it or you die.
That's right. Now, you mentioned a couple of interesting things there. Relative to geography, where a person is, like you mentioned Toronto, and ironically, I just flew back on a plane from Phoenix overnight Friday night, and out to on the plane was a lady from Hamilton, and she has her own business in Hamilton, and we were talking about real estate and so forth, and I know somewhat familiar with the area, Hamilton, Burlington, Kitchener, Ancaster, so forth and so on. But in those areas, for anybody interested in investing in this, southern westernmost part of Ontario, are there areas that are still relatively affordable compared to Toronto? And Toronto is a great city, one of the best in the world, but it has gotten quite expensive. And if you want to work there, you might have to take a train from somewhere else. But whether it's Mississauga, Oakville, any of those places, anything that pops out in your mind that people would find appealing as far as investing or even buying their own homes right now?
Toronto, unless you have deep pockets and you come across an opportunity like the one I told you before that comes out of the blue, is virtually unapproachable. What we spoke about yesterday would be to find a property, and this one is going to be looked at on the appreciation of the property, and so that your investment over a short period of time, you're going to find a quick ROI that's going to beat any cash flow you could ever find. So different ways of looking at properties. So if Toronto is no longer a really interesting one, well, Hamilton for a number of years was the number one investment city, if you will, in Canada because of its proximity to Toronto, where people, again, the homes were fairly affordable. They could take a GO train and get to Toronto in 30 minutes. So that was, and Hamilton, because of the universities, Ancaster, Oakville, you've got Western, you've got hospitals, so that attracted a lot of people as a center. And when you find hospitals and you find universities, you find rentals. And this is where people started to invest into the Hamilton market. That is now become, again, a very expensive market simply because everybody just focused on it. So now you're looking at other areas, and the research here becomes the key to find which markets are up and coming, where you have the opportunity to either purchase income properties or flip. Well, Niagara was never known for flipping properties because people would go crazy. And the market value, the fair market value was so low that you needed to be really good at managing the expense. Otherwise, you would put it back on the market. Nobody would touch it. So it would sit on the market forever. You wanted to make 75K and nobody's going to pay that. So that was a learning curve. And Niagara was known for not being a good market, although Niagara properties were very old and needed a lot of rehab. People were having a really hard time with it. So you're looking at Aurelia. You're looking at Ancaster, again, because of the university, became an important one. Oakville, everybody thought Oakville, oh my God, $1 million homes. Bad, bad, bad. No, actually, Oakville, even to this day, given its location and the beautiful homes, and is probably still one of the better markets to reside in as a renter. So, and we know today that because of the value of properties, there are more and more renters. And in Ontario, you've got rent control. So it favors the renter. And therefore, once you're in, you can be pretty secure for a number of years. The thing is, of course, is across Canada, Ontario, is you have an issue with rental properties in that we don't have enough. The vacancy rate is nothing. Our vacancy rate here is basically zero. So you know that when you put together an income property, that you need to do your due diligence because these people can be there for quite a while. So if you charge them too low, you're going to be in trouble. So you're looking at what the government. So whenever you do an analysis, you're looking, well, what's the rent in the market? What would be an acceptable rent in any market that you're looking at? So this is very important. So if you go to CMHC, which is in the States, I believe is rent check or rent something or other, where they give you in a certain market, what would be the rent for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom? Well, in Canada, we really don't have that, but the CMHC does studies. And when you look at today, what a 2-bedroom would rent for, 1,000, 1,100, but that's not market value. This is the value that lenders are going to look at. But when you look at TGG and the value of the properties that are going out there, a 2-bedroom is $1,600, $1,700. So you need to be very careful when you put your offer together, because when it goes to the lender, if you said $1,600, that's what they expect, because that's not what their numbers say. So you have to be very careful at the numbers that you put together and that you showed the lenders, because they'll hold you to it. So this is so looking for markets. We know that Ottawa, the numbers indicate that Ottawa have the most rental properties in Canada. Sorry, let's not go to Canada. Let's stay in Ontario. So the capital of Canada is the favorable market for rental properties. And then you going, okay, so what's the next one? Is there one closer to where I am? Yes, right northeast of Toronto. I have the second best rental properties, but go figure, I can't figure out why. That is, it's east of Toronto. It's an easy drive into Toronto against the sun in the morning. The properties were lower after Scarborough. It was to this area, but the east part of Scarborough was very affordable. And to this day, it's a great market to look for rental properties, income properties, and flipping. So if I were an investor, and I'm always looking in that market, because there's a lot of opportunities that are potentially interesting. Other markets that nobody looks at is that I found recently was Kingston. Kingston. And I'm going, wow, Kingston is the doorway to the Thousand Islands, where during the summer, it's a fabulous place. So what happens in the Thousand Islands? So what kind of activities would attract people there? Could we purchase property and just use them as rental properties throughout the year. It works fantastic during summer because it's just wall-to-wall people. What happens in wintertime? What's the attraction? Well, now you have to be creative because they don't use the golf courses as exercise, like put your skis on and go cross-country skiing. So you'd have to create this whole marketing around, but it's got huge potential. So this is depending on your creativity, given on that you're not just looking at just one small portion of the market, you have to look at different possibilities into the market to find the gems.
Right.
So the great deals can be anywhere. It just depends on how flexible are you into looking for different types of opportunities.
Right. Yeah,
this is when it becomes interesting and fun.
Yeah, I agree. That's the fun part of this is where we're challenged to be creative and innovative and use our imagination, and that's usually where the good stuff happens. So, hey, we're getting short on time here, but for anybody who's interested in investing in in and around the Toronto area, the southwestern part of Ontario, to promise, yes, we invest up there just like we invest in the States. And there's a lot of foreign ownership in that part of Canada. A lot of foreigners own properties in Canada. If they want to, how does someone wants to work with you, Louis? Because I see you as being the go-to guy out there. How can you get a hold of you? Email address, website. If you want to share your phone number, feel free. Because I want these folks to know they've got a good contact in the area to help them invest wisely in there.
So the website is quantumrealtyinvestments.com. We're just putting that website together now because we changed our platform, so we need to start all over again. So the email is Louis with an S, R, the initial for my last name, at quantumrealtyinvestments.com. So that would be my email. The phone number is the easiest way for the phone number is to call myself. Call me directly. And that would be 1+1 289 968 4466.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Lee. I really appreciate you taking your precious time out of your day to share your wisdom and knowledge. I think with your background, you're probably going to appeal to a lot of the folks, like me. I have a technical background too. It's, software engineering. And those skills are very, directly transferable to what you're doing with real estate, particularly investing and working with these investors. And I'm so glad we have folks like you out there we can rely on. So I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you. For everyone else listening, God bless you and your families, and hope you have this. I'm going to time the podcast. You might not be listening to it for months, but it's right before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you one and all. And we'll see you on the next podcast. In the meantime, everybody say thanks to Louis. When you get a chance, shoot him an email, give him a phone call, and let him show you what's possible in Western Ontario for investing, because a lot of people make a lot of money up there. Okay.
And we're next to New York, and we do invest in New York as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Buffalo is a great market to invest in.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. We have. I've been there before several times teaching, and because Buffalo's come a long ways.
Oh yes. Yes.
So Louis, thank you again. I appreciate this. And for everyone else, again, please subscribe. Go to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and subscribe to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. And also go to the community site, myinvestmentservices.com. Click on members area. Look either on the left, you're already a member, or on the right, you're not. You want to learn more about it. And I think if you ask, they'll give you a month for free. Well worth it. All kinds of tools, strategies, techniques, spreadsheets, and not to mention be able to network with folks like Louis. So, all right, guys, take care. We'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.